Last episode, we introduced the story of Gloria Satterfield. Her story is too long to tell in one session, so welcome back to the rest of her story. Gloria had devoted over 2 decades of her life taking care of the Murdaughs. How long is that? Basically, from about the time of this picture to the time of this picture. She spent those years of her life cleaning for Alex, cooking for Alex, washing his dirty underwear, scrubbing his toilets, and mostly taking care of his kids. How well had she taken care of Alex's children? We've heard it said by Paul's friends that he viewed her as a second mom, that her picture was the only one he carried in his wallet, so it's reasonable to conclude that she took great care of Alex's kids. How did he return that favor? How did he take care of Gloria's kids when she was gone and no longer could? Let's have a look. On this season of The Other 55%, the trial that consumed the entire true crime community and beyond.
And I could see his brain on
generating millions of dollars in fees. That was not enough for you.
I know you have to see Paul and Maggie during the night times when you're attempting to go to sleep. I'm sure they come and visit you.
All these people on these 2 exhibits, these were real people that needed this money, is that correct?
I'm sure they did.
Somebody gonna check them?
Yes, sir. They've already checked them.
They did check them?
Yes, sir.
That's official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
Oh, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become.
The murder trial is over, and the next trial for his financial crimes is about to begin. We've heard the number of indictments. Let's go beyond the numbers. As Creighton Waters said, Alex Murdaugh's victims are real people. Let's hear their stories. Last time we talked about how Alex and Corey had recruited Chad Westendorf, vice president of Palmetto State Bank, to take Tony's place as personal representative. Alex is so sure his plan will go the way he wants it to, a check is already cut for Chad before he's even given word that he accepts it.
So on November 28th, they're cutting a check for you as personal representative, and you were not even the PR yet.
No.
Did you have any idea this was going on at the time?
First time I've ever seen that.
And so the lawyer at the law firm that was paying the $505,000 says attached is our firm's W-9, and the payee instructions are as follows: Chad Westendorf as PR and Moss, Kuhn, and Fleming. You see that? But on November 30th, did you know this had been sent?
No, sir.
Okay.
And I don't believe I agreed by then. I don't think I had agreed to be in the PR by then.
By November 30th?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Attorney Eric Bland also notes that given that Westendorf was appointed on the 18th, a petition to approve a settlement was filed the very next day, along with a 15-day-old check. It's clear this was being held until Chad was officially named personal representative. Another interesting question nobody asked was, why was a settlement to 2 adult men going to forge anyway? These guys weren't minors. They both worked and took care of themselves. Why would their attorney and personal representative be setting things up as if they were minors that needed trust accounts? No one asked. No one cared.
Did you ever ask, why is there a structure?
No, sir.
What's the reason for a structure when people are over 18 years old in their 30s?
I have no idea. I can't answer that.
Were you aware that structures are usually for people who are like minors or people who are incapacitated and they'll need medical needs throughout their life, so you want the money to last? Did you have any reason to ask why we're doing a structure as opposed to dispersing the money?
I didn't.
Okay.
Next, we saw how Alex manipulated that situation to take not some, but all of the Satterfield settlement money. But he didn't do it alone. With the help of his longtime friend Corey, they set their evil plan into motion. But some interesting points came up in Chad's deposition with attorney Eric Bland that seemed to implicate the judge as well. Now remember, since the first few episodes, I mentioned how Alex liked to keep things in Hampton County, even if the clients did not reside in Hampton. Well, here, I think, is a great example of why that's so. In the last episode, I mentioned something about certain settlement documents not being properly filed in court or appearing on court dockets anywhere. It turns out there's a much bigger story there. Remember, the blueprint that's running down the right side of the document is the actual court filing, with the date, the court case number, etc. Aside from that, we have what's called the court caption. The caption is this part on the left. It names the plaintiff or the person representing the plaintiff, as in this case. When a person has passed, it should identify this somehow by calling them decedent or deceased, something to that effect. Or it could say, as it does here, the estate of, which clearly shows the person has died. Then, beneath the V should be the defendant or defendants. The caption should also state which court, and with the first filing, it's assigned a case number that should then appear on all further court documents related to the case, on the upper right with the document type underneath. For example, this one, Petition for Approval of Wrongful Death Settlement. The caption is correct here, but suddenly, there's a big change. Look at the differences. Suddenly we see in re Gloria Satterfield. No plaintiff, no defendant, nothing to help us see this is about a deceased person, no case number, no court filing stamp, just in re, meaning in regards to. This gets mentioned also in the deposition.
So when you're at this mediation, you're aware, because you're in Hampton County, that Mallory Beach died.
Sure.
And the whole landscape started to change. This third paragraph says, John Grantland says, my office will work on the court approval documents ASAP. And the agreements we prepare will all have the in re Gloria Satterfield caption. You see that?
Yes, sir.
So what happened to make this change between the first meeting with Judge Mullen, where a petition was brought to her for signature, the caption was correct, and it was properly filed in court on December 19, 2018, and then this meeting on May 13, 2019, where the caption will be dropped? The fatal boat crash on February 24th that Alex was about to be sued for.
You're the plaintiff. Did you consent for your caption, you being the plaintiff, to be changed to in re Gloria Satterfield?
No, sir. And I don't know what that means.
Do you understand? In re is just a term that estate lawyers like Tommy use. It means, in the name of. But it doesn't even say decedent now. Now it gets a little bit squirrely, because it doesn't say in re Gloria Satterfield decedent. It just says in re Gloria Satterfield. And that can mean a person that's incapacitated because they're in the hospital. You didn't consent for that caption to be changed, did you?
No, sir.
Nobody asked you?
Nobody asked me.
And if you were asked, would you take your name off as a plaintiff on that caption for the estate?
No, sir.
Did you ever hear that the reason they're changing the caption, and whose name got taken off that? Your name? Right?
Yes.
And the guy on the other side of the V was who? Alex.
Yeah.
His name was taken off.
I wasn't?
Yeah, well, now it's Imre Gloria Satterfield. Ever hear that discussion? That the reason Alex's name was being taken off that caption was he didn't want Mark Tinsley, who was suing his son for the Mallory Beach boating accident, he didn't want anybody to find out of public record that this kind of money was being paid from his homeowner's insurance carrier.
The only time I heard that was
in Chambers.
In Chambers, yes.
At the second settlement
Yes,
conference.
yes.
Mm-hmm. And Alec wasn't even there.
He wasn't there.
Okay. And that was said to Judge Mullen.
From Corey, yes, sir.
And Judge Mullen says, I understand.
I understand.
And Judge Mullen, did you know, had recused herself a month before from the BUI lawsuit? BUI meaning boating under the influence. That I'm going to show you an order that a month before you had your hearing, she recused herself from hearing anything having to do with Alex Murdaugh and Mallory Beach's death.
I did not.
Did she discuss that to you? Did she say to you, Mr. Westendorf, you're the PR for this estate, and I need to disclose to you that I have recused myself 1 month before from having to do anything with Alex Murdaugh and the Mallory Beach death?
No, sir.
Okay. So you didn't see this email where they're going to change the caption?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you remember signing this settlement agreement?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you remember seeing the settlement agreement? That it said,
No, I don't remember seeing this.
okay.
I don't remember seeing it. I'm sorry. She told me to speak
Okay.
up.
Do you remember the statement at the bottom, right before the bottom, it says on the front page, the settlement petition and order shall not have an adversarial caption. Do you remember seeing that language?
No, sir. And I don't know what that means. So.
Okay. Well, obviously,
I know now.
it's a V.
Yeah.
You know,
Versus.
Chad versus Eric.
Yeah.
Now it's going to say in Ray Gloria Satterfield. Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break, okay?
After a short break, Chad changes his comments. Now, I don't know if this was a misunderstanding, or he backtracked, or what exactly happened, but somehow the story plays out a little bit differently this time.
Judge Mullen has recused herself from hearing all matters related to this case and forwarded to justice for reassignment. And so this is the Mallory Beach case versus Gregory Parker, and ETAL means that there's other defendants. And you were unaware of that when you went into that hearing. Yes. So when you went into the hearing on
Excuse me.
April 13th, it was just you, Corey.
May 13th.
May 13th, you and Corey.
Yes, sir. And Judge Mullen.
And Judge Mullen. And again, that was not on court record, and it was not in a courtroom.
No, sir. It was in a room off there.
Room off there, okay. And did it strike you funny when Judge Mullen said we're going to change the caption and take Alex's name off?
I didn't know that happened until you just told me.
Well, you said there was a discussion in front of...
Not about taking the caption off. The only discussion we had was he told Judge Mullen that that Alex attorneys would appreciate or would not want her to file the order at this time. I didn't know anything about a caption.
Okay.
They asked her.
Did they say the reason
because of the recent boating accident?
The recent boating,
yes.
And he was being sued.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know about being sued, but she just said the publicity over the recent boating accident.
And that's why she said, "I'm going to sign the order, but don't file it."
Yes, it wasn't filed.
Okay. She said, "Don't file it."
Corey asked if it I'm going to file this later. I don't remember the judge saying don't file it, but Corey said we want to file this later.
Well, we're not going to.
I don't know how it all works. Okay. Yeah.
It was never filed.
Okay. It was.
So he told her we're not going to file it because of the publicity over the boating accident, and she said okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then signed the order.
She signed something. I cannot say that was the exact thing she signed, but I was in there when she agreed to it.
Okay.
Though he backs off a little on his story, he does implicate Judge Carmen Mullen in allowing Corey to not file a document that should have been filed as a favor to Alex to help him hide money from attorney Mark Tensley, who was hired by Mallory Beach's family. I don't have words. He wanted to hide his money from the family of a young girl that his son killed in a boat accident while operating the boat heavily intoxicated, though underage. There are many witnesses to the fact that his son had access to alcohol, with Alex and Maggie's knowledge and approval. And Alex wants to hide his court winnings from this girl's grief-stricken parents. And somehow, attorney Corey Fleming goes along with it. He puts his reputation, law license, livelihood, all in danger in the process. But he must feel confident enough that those things are not actually in danger. Otherwise, there would be pause here, but there doesn't seem to be. Chad Westendorf, vice president of Palmetto State Bank, goes along with it, putting his reputation, position at the bank, his livelihood in danger too, without hesitation or fear, it seems. And even worse, Judge Carmen Mullen goes along with it, risking everything as well. Why did these people feel so safe to do such things in this county? In the letter that accompanied the settlement check, they write, "Please hold these settlement funds in trust until the petition and order approving settlement have been signed and filed at the probate court settlement hearing," because that's how it's supposed to happen. Corey and Alex prepare the order approving settlement document, and this time there's a copy of Judge Mullen actually signing it. However, like the first one, and against state law, it's never filed. The disbursements are ordered as follows: $4,255,000 towards the wrongful death claim, and $50,000 for survival action. The wrongful death portion is supposed to go directly to the beneficiaries, and the survival action to her estate, which will have more actions before it gets dispersed in any way, including, but not limited to, paying her medical bills from the time between her injuries and death, and her funeral expenses. Again, how were these bills going to be paid if they put the majority in the wrongful death portion? Alex didn't care. as long as he got that money. First, we see two settlement amounts. Judge Mullen had signed the petition for this settlement, but the order, if signed, had not been filed. So it appears here in this disbursement sheet, though the money had already been disbursed in a check to Alex's fake Forge account. Then we have the attorney's fees for each insurance company. Next, we see prosecution expenses for $105,000. This amount is strange not just because of how large it is, but I'm told these are almost never round numbers. Think of it like your bank balances. Charges come in with all different amounts. When you tally them up, they're almost never right on a round number. These expenses are not broken down anywhere to show what they're for either. During the deposition, Eric Blenn emphasizes this to Chad Westendorf, that this was not litigation. There would be very minimal expenses occurred in a matter like this.
And you signed the disbursement sheet.
Yes, sir.
And this is now a combined disbursement sheet. There's $505,000 that was the Lloyd's first settlement, right?
Yes, sir.
There's the $3.8 million, which was the Nautilus settlement.
Yes, sir.
Attorney's fees from the first one are $168,333.33 from Lloyd's and $1.2 million from the Nautilus settlement, right?
Yes, sir.
But we already went through the disbursement sheet that you signed on January 7th,
Yeah.
and that wasn't a settlement of 505, it was a settlement of 475. You didn't catch the difference?
I did not catch that.
And $403,500 was already sent to Forge. We saw that check.
Yes, sir.
Which leaves $101,500. Where was the $168,000 of attorney's fees going to come from? Then you signed and approved $105,000 of prosecution expenses. And you're saying, I fully understand and approve the above disbursements. What did you do to avail yourself that there was $105,000 of expenses? And if you approved 11.5, and I know it's embarrassing for you and it's painful, but if you approved the 11.5 on January 7th, right?
Yes.
Of expenses.
Yes, sir.
How was there an additional $105,000 between January of 2019 and the May 13th, 2019 hearing?
No idea.
It's not credible.
It's not.
There wasn't ongoing litigation. There wasn't depositions. The estate wasn't paying Corey by the hour. He was taking a contingency fee up top. You see his contingency fee. And where does that? How does that make sense? Other than it's just Corey stealing.
It doesn't make sense.
So the net, it says that you're going to oversee, that's going to go to my clients, is $2,765,000. You're going to oversee that. You're going to make sure that this gets dispersed this way. And you understand when Judge Mullen signs this order and she sees this disbursement sheet, she expects that it's going to be dispersed exactly how it was presented to her by you on this sheet. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So then we have another disbursement sheet. And now it shows the same settlements, 50538 up top. You see that?
Yes, sir.
But now it's saying from the Lloyd's portion, they're only going to take $50,000 of settlement monies. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Previous document, they were going to take
166. Something.
168. And now they're saying they're only going to take $600,000 from the Nautilus, where the previous document they told the court they were going to take 1,266. You see that?
Yes, sir.
And now the prosecution expenses are, there's a mediation for $1,500 that pays the mediator, and then you got paid another $20,000. You see that?
Yes, sir.
For a total of $30,000.
Yes, sir.
How was that determined?
I have no idea.
And then the only other expenses are a $55.59, and then there's two $8,000 and $8,500 expense checks, and you never figured out what they are for.
Nope.
And then prosecution remaining in trust, $191,000. You see that?
Yes, sir.
And they have these Forge checks here. You see those?
Yes, sir.
But this was never signed by you.
No, sir. Never saw it.
You never approved it.
No.
The only one you approved was the one you signed. But somehow this this document was created as well. Okay?
Why did Judge Mullen not question it? This is very suspicious. When you see paperwork improperly filled in, or you see things like these suspicious prosecution expenses, how hard is it to ask an additional question? You're not simply there to write your name, you're supposed to be presiding. Chad testified that Judge Mullen went along with hiding the boat money. So, although attorney Eric Bland lists all the ways that she was misled by Corey and Alex, it makes one wonder how much was she misled and how much she simply turned a blind eye to. I also found it very convenient that the second meeting, where Corey informed and Judge Mullen approved that the documents were not going to be filed, that a clerk or court reporter were not present. Did all parties know what was going to be discussed, to know that a clerk shouldn't be there? Maybe a clerk wouldn't be okay with this illegal action. Maybe it was too risky, because God forbid the clerk have morals. Some other strange things occur as in amounts that were set up in the settlement order are inexplicably changed. Settlement orders are supposed to be followed to the cent. Any changes that may need to be made would have to be drawn up in new documents and have a whole new hearing and filing in court. Instead, we have petitions, orders, and disbursement sheets that don't even match up with each other. We have an amount that's supposed to go to Gloria's heirs, and even that check is wrong. Not that it affects the outcome, since it doesn't go to her sons, but directly to Alex's fake Forge account. It was supposed to be $2,765,000 going through Chad directly to Tony and Brian, but instead, Chad once again fails in his duties as personal representative and allows a check to be written from Corey directly to Alex's fraudulent Forge account in the amount of $2,961,931.95 on May 13, 2019. No one seems to notice or care that this amount is off by almost $200,000. As a side point, this amount had attorneys everywhere flabbergasted. Coming up with an amount for a death settlement is not a lighthearted task. It feels a little bit sickening to put a value on someone's life, but it's something that must be done. Human life is valuable, especially to a person's loved ones, but there must be a formula that can be followed as a guide. It's based on things like a person's earning potential times the estimated working years left. So naturally, a 57-year-old housekeeper would not expect to earn millions of dollars. Then there are more personal things, such as loss of companionship, guidance, affection, even sex. But in Gloria's case, she was a widow with grown sons, so some of these wouldn't be added to the mix. So with the average death settlement amount in the U.S. being between $500,000 and $1 million, it's startling that her estate was awarded this amount. So how did this come about?
I'm sure you gulped when you saw 3.8
Yes, I thought it was a very...
You know, I will tell you this, and obviously Ronnie Scott and I represent Gloria, and we've learned a lot about Gloria, a wonderful person. But where we practice, that's an extraordinary settlement of $4.3 million for a 57-year-old lady that basically earns $11. Not to minimize her life, what she's worth, it's priceless, but from lawyers, and he does defense work, economically, you say, okay, there was $600,000 in medical bills, she had this much of lost income, maybe you could get $1.5 to $2 million settlement, but $4.3 million is just extraordinary. And I'm sure you felt the same way. And you're not even a lawyer.
No.
And you're not even a guy that's aware of this. I'm just telling you, we were flabbergasted and impressed with Corey Fleming, to be honest with you. Now, we do have a little more information than we initially did, which was that Alec was pressing the hammer on his own insurance companies and saying, look, if you don't settle this, there's going to be an excess verdict. It could be more than the $5 million of coverage or whatever the excess is. And if that's the case, it comes against me personally. I'm going to sue you guys for bad faith. You ever hear those kind of terms? And Alex kind of told the carriers, look, this is going to be tried in Hampton County, my jurors. I've seen this in the insurance file, just to let you know. And that I'm going to stand up in front of this jury and say, it's my responsibility that this woman died. It's my fault. And so the analysis of the insurance company was, they're very scared of Alex. in front of a Hampton County jury. And that's why they made the decision to settle for $3.8 million. So you get called on the phone and you're like, yeah, it's a good number. Take it. It's not like you didn't come back and say, well, Corey, do you think you can get $5 million? You didn't say that, did you?
So there we go. This wasn't some brilliant lawyering on Corey's part. This was plain and simple bullying by Alex. I believe Alex manipulated the story from the beginning by bringing in the dogs. When he was being questioned by the insurance investigator, he even told a tale of one of them just coming back from behavior training. He knew if Gloria had fallen of her own accord, it wouldn't be worth so much, so he had to add something that he would be liable for in order to get a claim. Then he bullied and threatened his own insurance company to get the absolute most that he could. It's truly ironic that if he hadn't abused his insurance this way, he would have still had it when Paul wrecked the boat, and the policy would have been large enough that he might not even have been investigated. He started being investigated because he claimed he had no money, but things worked out as they should. He's now behind bars for the rest of his life where he can't hurt anyone anymore, and his victims are being compensated. Back to the money. Other amounts have changed as well. Like I said, the petitions, orders, disbursement sheets don't even match up with each other. So all we have to go by is the actual final accounting of the money from the account. As Eric reads these amounts off, it's so different from the original petition you wouldn't even know that it's from the same case.
So this is the escrow analysis account of the monies. So it shows $505,000 coming in on December 19th, the day after you were appointed. Then on January 7th, $403,500 was paid to Forge, right?
Yes, sir.
Then $10,000 was paid to you, which we already showed. Then $8,000 was paid to Corey Fleming, which we showed, and we have no idea what that $8,000 represents. Moss Fleming got $50,000, but under the order from Judge Mullins, they were supposed to get $166,000. Then Corey Fleming takes another $8,500. You see that?
I see that.
On April 3rd. Did you know what that was for?
I do not.
The only legitimate cost was the mediator that was $1,512, which is John Austin. Then the $3.8 million is deposited. $2,961 goes to Forge, what we already saw. You got your $20,000, which we've already seen. And $600 went to Moss Coon when it was supposed to be $1,266 million.
Yes.
And then another $9,700 went to Corey Fleming. You know what that was for?
No, sir.
So we have almost $27,000 worth of checks written to Corey from this account for personal expenses, which never existed, which is pure theft. And then there was the $118,000. I showed you that check that was written on October 6th, which left $113,800, which was wired to my account.
Okay.
So that is the saga of this.
Bank of America simply accepts this nearly $3 million check without hesitation on May 15, 2019. And within days of the deposit, Alex begins taking the money in the amounts of $350,000, $400,000, and $125,000 for a total of $875,000. This now laundered money goes to transfers, cashier's checks, and it keeps mostly in amounts below $10,000 at a time to avoid attention. On October the 5th, 2019, Chad officially signs off as personal representative, and it's filed in court on October 6th. It's interesting to look at the wording of this document. Alex clearly wants to make it seem that this matter is simply dismissed, without noting any settlement funds. Remember, after the first petition to approve settlement, all orders and petitions were kept far from court dockets and filings, so if anyone, such as Tiger Tinsley, is investigating Alex's finances with only the initial petition and this dismissal on file, they just might miss the fact that he won a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. In this closing process, Chad allows a check to be written to Fake Forge for $118,000. For what? It's deposited the same day. No one requires any accounting of what this money's for, or where it's going, or why there's even money left in a wrongful death account that should have already been given to Gloria's heirs. It's just sitting around in a bank waiting for Alex to steal it. So where did the money go? From October 8, 2019 to May 28, 2021, Alex issues 17 cashier's checks from Fake Forge to Cousin Eddie, Curtis Smith, totaling $164,748.76. And then from the personal account that he had already transferred some of the laundered settlement money to, he writes 254 personal checks to Cousin Eddie, totaling $1,825,560.95. Almost $2 million in 20 months. Alex was in a hot rush to make us all believe that he had a drug addiction and that that's where all his money went. He wanted us to think it occurred over a large span of time, yet his transactions with Cousin Eddie were only within this 20-month period. It's simply impossible that he spent almost $2 million in less than 2 years on Oxy, in my opinion and in many others' opinions. Also in my opinion, something much bigger was happening with this money that has yet to be uncovered. But the fact is, in all this time, the Satterfields had not received one dime. In spite of Brian's status as a vulnerable adult, he followed his mom's work ethic and did his best to support himself by working hard. He got to the point of being unable to make ends meet and lost his home while Alex was busy spending the millions he'd stolen from Gloria's sons, the woman who had raised his own sons. He didn't have the decency to even offer a small portion of the settlement. He wanted it all, no matter how difficult life became for Brian and Tony. Meanwhile, a journalist by the name of Mandy Matney, who had been researching the Murdaugh family for some time, came across documents that showed that Alex had won a settlement for Tony and Brian, and she casually mentioned it in a news article. Tony and Brian were then made aware of this and were surprised to hear it, since Alex had been telling them to be patient, that he was working hard, and the settlement would come soon. The family was hesitant at first to take action against Alex, but as Gloria's brother, Eric Harriet Jr. said, "It ain't about the money. It's like she was a nobody as much as she's done for him." I think we all agree with Gloria's brother. Again, Gloria deserved better. A quick update. Last week, 2 bits of news were decided regarding this case. 1, Alex requested and was granted an extension of time to prepare for this trial. His reason? Prison conditions make it difficult to prepare. Newsflash, Alex, you're not a lawyer anymore. Just sit in prison and wait on your attorneys like everyone else. The second, disgraced former attorney Corey Fleming's trial date has been set for September 11th of this year. May that go well. In this saga, Corey claims he was hoodwinked by Alex, that he didn't know what Alex was doing. But we just went through the escrow account, where we saw him helping himself to almost $27,000. We heard about the email Michael Gunn of The Real Forge sent, explaining that once money has gone to the lawyers, it cannot be structured. In order to structure it, the check must be returned and recut. Corey had experience dealing with Michael and The Real Forge. He knew that it didn't operate anything like this. If what he claims is true, and he's this inept, should he be a lawyer? Judge Mullen, who attended law school with Alex, claims she's only guilty of trusting lawyers. But we heard Chad's testimony that she knowingly, willingly broke the law on Alex's behalf to hide his court winnings from a family who'd lost their daughter. We can look at these accountings and see how off they are. She presides over cases all day, every day, for years, yet didn't realize something was wrong? I don't buy it. Her relationship with Alex was so close that she had to recuse herself from anything to do with the boat trial. If what she says is true, yet she misses details like she missed here, should she be a judge, as she still is today? Chad Westendorf has been interviewed by SLED and the FBI. He also testified before the grand jury, and though he can't speak about that, it makes me wonder if his testimony was part of what helped get Alex an indictment. He has reimbursed the Satterfields for the $30,000 he was paid as personal representative for their mother, and he issued them an apology and condolences. His name has been dropped from the criminal lawsuit, and he continues to serve as vice president of Palmetto State Bank. We just watched him sit there playing dumb to everything around him. Eric spoke to him like a child so many times because he seemed to struggle with big words. I started to wonder if he could tie his own shoes. After working in banking for 24 years, being a vice president of Palmetto State Bank, being the president of a banking association, he didn't notice numbers were hundreds of thousands of dollars off? He meticulously collected copies of paperwork, even emailing Corey for copies that he didn't have, but we're supposed to believe he never noticed the emails about the caption being changed? He played it well, yet the moments of clarity that surfaced from time to time, like when Eric said the wrong date or exhibit number, it showed us that a lot more was going on behind his glazed eyes. And if what he says is true, and he's as lost as he seemed, should he be running financial institutions? So for all three of these people who the facts show were deeply involved, were they accomplices or just unfit for their careers? In happy news, attorney Eric Bland has helped the Satterfields win a settlement in court for over $6.5 million from Palmetto State Bank, Chad Westendorf, Corey Fleming, Fleming's law firm, and several insurance companies. They are also named plaintiffs in the criminal indictment against Alex that I've referenced throughout this video. May this be the outcome for all of Alex's victims. Thanks for watching. Episode 6, Blondell Gary, is coming soon. Till then, stay well and stay tuned.